you know that only 10% of you have subscribed? So if you're part of the 90 that isn't, please consider subscribing today. Hey, SallyBC here, and today I'm doing my top 10 Transformers figures of 2021. Now, I'm going to quickly say that these are figures that I bought last year, not figures that came out last year. Because if it was figures that came out last year, it'd be a very tight list. Now, although most figures on this list are figures that came out last year, but whatever. I do quickly want to say that some of these figures may have a bit of recency bias because 4 of them are ones that I got in December. But anyway, let's get on with it. Number 10. Kingdom Core Class Rat Trap. Now, this is my first Core Class figure and only Core Class figure. I've got a lot of like Legends, Legions, Scout Class, those type of ones. But this is the first really modern sort of figure this size. And I've got to say, it's really nice. It's a really nice figure. It's got a lot of posability. The paint is amazing. The transformation is really, really nice. The head sculpt is awesome with the brain and everything. The red on the mouth and all of that. And the transformation is quite easy. It's a bit of a shell former, which is a shame. But I think it actually works pretty nice. The painting on the arm, the tiny little maximal symbol is really nice. And the rat mode is quite slick. There's a little bit of kibble sticking out and whatever. And it's quite nice that you can actually stick the gun on the side. I think it's quite nice, and that's why it made it to number 10. Number 9. Earthrise Voyager Starscream. Now, I've seen that there are some people that don't really like this figure all that much. But I gotta say that I really, really like it. Even without the waist swivel and the back kibble and whatever, I still really like the figure. The painting is quite nice, although mine's a little bit chipped. The transformation is simple, but not overly simple. It could probably be a little better, but for the most part, I really like it. And the jet mode is a fairly slick looking jet mode with very little kibble underneath. There we go. The leg transformation especially is quite interesting with it opening up and stuff. Thought this would take less time. Of course, the parts forming with the null rays is a bit of a shame, but I don't think it's all too terrible. Now, this jet mode is quite nice with the Decepticon symbols looking quite nice, although it sometimes doesn't peg together all too well. The orange cockpit looks quite nice. The little black head poking out the bottom isn't great, but hey, it's quite nice, and that's why it's number 9. Number 8. Siege Voyager Megatron. Now, this figure is really, really nice, and I'm surprised on how low on the list it is. I think originally it might have been a couple places higher, but as I sort of refined the list a little more, it just got lower and lower. The articulation on this guy is phenomenal, and the transformation is really quite clever. It's a shame that there's a little bit of like scuffing paint on the chest, but it's fairly easily removable. And the tank mode itself is really, really nice. There's that swivel on the turret that just comes out of nowhere, and the head could have maybe been hidden a little better, but I don't think it's all too terrible. And the sword transformation is also really, really nice. The fact that it just flips out and then just slides in is super nice. And then you get this really, really satisfying tank mode. Of course, the sword kind of clips a little bit on stuff, and it's not and of course the turret doesn't move up, but I think it works all right, and that's why it's number 8. Number 7. Covert Agent Ravage. Now, this is one of the more recent ones I've gotten, so this may have a little bit of recency bias, but then again, I'm actually surprised at how low on the list this guy is. I was expecting this to be quite a bit higher on the list, but it just was a little underwhelming, really. I still really like the figure, and it did make it to top 10, but just, I don't know what it is about it. It's just, maybe it's the transformation, maybe it's the articulation. The arms are a little weird. Of course, I haven't done a review on this guy yet, so I'm going to wait to say everything about it until then. But I don't know. Blah, 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 blah. It's a figure of a character that I've wanted for a while. Like the Beast Wars Ravage was really quite cool in the show, and it's kind of a shame we never really got a proper one of it. But here he is, and it's quite nice, and it did make it to number 7. Number 6, Kingdom Deluxe Cheetor. Now, of course, I do have some issues with this figure, and maybe it'd be a little higher up if it didn't break, but it's still a really, really nice figure. Of course, the tail parts forming isn't the best, but I think it works all right. The articulation is really nice, even in having a butterfly joint, and the transformation is also quite smooth. Even if it did break, there's not really much I can do about that. If it snaps off, I can always ask Hasbro for a replacement and see if they'll send me one. But yeah, the cheetah mode as well is very, very nice. Although mine does have a little bit of paint chipping, but yeah, it's quite a nice figure. The cheetah mode has some bits of articulation. The articulation isn't great on the cheetah mode, but hey, it's a cheetah. Who really cares? But yeah, I quite like this figure, and that's why it's at number 6. Number 5. Starting with the top 5 is Kingdom Earth Mode Deluxe Class Mirage. Now, I haven't done a review on this guy yet, because this is also one that I got recently. So there could be a bit of recency bias, but I really like this guy. Yeah, it's a shame that the shoulder cannon doesn't really work properly. And the articulation is pretty good. The legs can come apart quite easily, but I think for the most part, this guy's pretty good. Some of the tolerances are a little in some places, but I think for the most part, it works quite well. The transformation can be a bit difficult, but I have heard that this figure is much, much better than the Siege one. I'm pretty sure the Siege one's entire lower legs are made of clear plastic, which is ridiculous. But yeah, the transformation is kind of satisfying, but also a little bit iffy. And the articulation's nice, and the Formula 1 race car mode is also quite nice. I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit because these transformations are taking longer than I thought, and I have less to say than I thought. Not really the best person when it comes to favorites and stuff. But there we go. Come on, there we go. Formula 1 race car mode is very nice with like the grills and the seat and everything. Spoiler's nice. The weapon storage isn't great. It could probably be a bit better. You just kind of stick them on the sides like this. That could be better, but I think for the most part, it's a pretty nice figure. And that is why it's number 5. Number 4. Kingdom Deluxe Class Skywarp. Now, I actually bought this 2-pack for the Sideswipe, but this figure actually blew me out of the water. I was not expecting it to be as good as it is. I had seen reviews on Airraiser and wasn't super interested in it. I was gonna get it, but it wasn't really one that I was like, I need that. And this guy, this character isn't really a character that I have all much attachment to, being a Beast Wars 2nd character, I believe. But I've got to say, it's a really, really nice figure, and I really do want to get that Airraiser now. Come on. Do I have anything else to say? Of course, it's a shame it's not part of Magnaboss. I guess I could talk about the articulation. Yeah, that's what I should talk about. Well done, Sal. The articulation is pretty decent. I was worried about the legs with the whole bend here for the transformation. But, it actually didn't turn out all that bad. It stays in place, it stands up. Of course, the undercarriage isn't great with all the kibble, the very obvious robot mode sitting down. But, it doesn't look terrible. And the weapon storage is actually really nice as well, because it blends in with the rest of the white. It kind of hides the grey, or not the grey, the brown. But yeah, the bird mode is also incredibly nice. I wasn't expecting a opening mouth, which is very, very nice. The wings articulation is also amazing. You can get them in all sorts of poses. I'd like if maybe these could bend up a little bit more so you get a sort of curve up like that, but for the most part, it's quite nice, and that's why it's number 4. Number 3. Kingdom Deluxe Sideswipe. Now, of course, I just spoke about the other part of this 2-pack. Not Silverbolt, Skywarp. I always mess that up because he has 2 names. Anyway, moving on to this guy. The articulation on this guy is pretty damn good. And the transformation is also incredibly satisfying to do. And whilst the feet are very stiff on my copy, I've got to say, it looks and feels pretty good. The robot mode looks amazing. The vehicle mode looks pretty good. There's a couple things that I think could be better, like the wing shield and maybe having a spoiler. But for the most part, I think it's quite nice. The paint is also really nice on the figure. The guns are painted white, which is kind of weird. And the weapon storage isn't great. It could possibly be better, but I think for the most part it works. And that is why he's number 3. Probably my favourite Deluxe I own. Number 2. Kingdom Leader Class Ultra Magnus. I don't know how I'm going to do you. Since, you're quite big and complex to transform, so talking about you and transforming you at the same time is going to be a pain in the backside. Anyway, I never really had all that much attachment to Ultra Magnus as a character, so really wasn't expecting this guy to be so high on the list. It being number 2 really quite surprised me. Because, I'd seen videos of the figure and I really wasn't expecting it to be all that good. But, man, this figure is phenomenal. And the fact they were able to squeeze in the smaller robot, well, I guess not really squeeze in, is kind of the whole way it's designed, but the smaller Optimus Prime inspired robot mode, this guy, whilst it's a little chunky, I still really do quite enjoy it. And the alternate mode, whilst being a little, with the hands sticking out and the feet sticking out, once you get the trailer on, it looks really nice. And the transformation, of course, it's heavy parts forming. It is an Ultra Magnus with a smaller white robot inside. What do you expect? I don't think it's that bad. Unlike some people, I really don't mind parts forming all that much. I don't really know what to say for this guy. There's a lot to talk about in such limited time because of the transformation. There's very little to talk about in the large amount of time that I have. Yeah, because the transformation is so excessive. Because there's so much of him. But I'm just stalling for time so I can get this done. I like this figure. I really like this figure. I wasn't expecting it to be second place because I didn't think it looked amazing. I thought it looked fine. Of course, I bought it, but I was expecting it to maybe be lower on the list, maybe somewhere closer to 8 or 10. But no, this is a phenomenal figure, and I really do enjoy it. Yep, come on, just hurry up. Of course, the vehicle mode isn't all that accurate to the original design. It not really being very open. You can't really fit all that many vehicles inside of it. But I still like it quite a lot. And that's why it's number 2. Honourable mention number 1. Leader Class Siege Shockwave. Now, this guy very almost made the list, but he just barely got out just because of this stuff. I'm not going to transform it because I don't really want to talk about it for that long. But yeah, it almost made the list because it's an amazing figure. But this bumping up the price to a leader just so the alt mode doesn't look like an upside down gun, it's a shame because this could have very easily been released as a Voyager. And that is why it's an honourable mention. Honourable mention number 2. Studio Series Devastator. Now, of course, this is not Studio Series Devastator. Studio Series Devastator is way too big to fit in my recording setup, so I've just got this guy here as a placeholder. I love that figure. Love it. But because I don't have much space, I never really find myself, playing with it. I would, if I could, I'd deconstruct it down into the independent parts, and I do occasionally, like once every 2 months, but it's not enough for me to want to put it on the list, and that's why it's an honorable mention. Number 1, Kingdom Leader Class Optimus Prime. Now, this may seem a little hypocritical since I didn't put Shockwave on the list because he was a leader instead of a Voyager. But I gotta say, I think it's worth it with Optimus, because Optimus's transformation is above the Voyager price point. They couldn't release this guy as a Voyager on its own. And he also comes with a trailer, which is what I think a very important part of Optimus Prime. If Optimus Prime doesn't come with a trailer, if the character of Optimus Prime has a trailer, that particular one, and it doesn't come with one, then I feel like, of course, some people might not want it, but, I think they should at least have the option to get a trailer without, purchasing the trailer on its own, which no one would buy. I really like this figure a lot. I think the painting is really good. I think the sculpting is amazing. I think the transformation is phenomenal. The weapon, it's a bit of a shame it, going like that, and it doesn't come with a Energon axe or anything, but, I think it's alright. And the trailer, it's a nice little add-on. It could have come with a little more, like a roller, but I think for the most part, it's a really, really phenomenal figure. The vehicle mode is just amazing, and that is why it is number 1. I hope you enjoyed this little look into my brain to find out which of the figures I got this year were my top 10. Now, I'd love to, of course, do the whole top 21 of 2021 thing, but I just feel like I didn't personally get enough figures. I got around 21-ish if you include Devastator as 1. If you include him as not 1, then I got roughly 30. I just didn't feel like it was enough to do the top 21 thing. And now there is one figure that would have made it to the list if there wasn't this tiny little issue that I'll get into the review of the figure in maybe about a month or so. But yep, that's about it for this video. So I guess that's Salut BC out.